Hello everyone and welcome to this special episode LogiMAT India Talks, Innovating the Logistics Landscape. Today we will delve on the topic Intra-Logistics, Transforming the Logistics Landscape in India. I, Smriti Rastogi, along with an esteemed panel of speakers, will strive to decode how the technology and innovations in intra-logistics is changing the logistics landscape in India. Intra-logistics, often referred to as the science of optimizing, integrating, automating and managing the logistics and materials handling processes within an organization, is becoming increasingly vital in India as the country strives to position itself as the next global manufacturing hub. The logistics industry plays a pivotal role in this transformation. And so today we are joined by a panel of experts who will shed light on how technology is reshaping logistics in India, how Indian companies are leading the way, and the geopolitical and manufacturing factors that make the logistics industry are all the more important. I have with me Mr. Satish Shukla, co-founder, Addverb, Mr. Yashraj Rao, Associate Vice President, the High-Tech Robotic Systemz, Mr. Nailesh Gandhi, Managing Director, Express Global, and Professor Manoj Choudhary, Vice Chancellor, Gati, Shakti, Vishwavidyalaya. A very warm welcome, gentlemen. Starting with you, Satish. This is something which I'm sure the viewers would like to understand. Addverb enables organizations with automated systems, which is truly the need of our today. Could you please tell us more about the overview of what intra-logistics is all about and its significance, especially in the context of logistics scene in India?
See, if you have to understand intra-logistics, you will have to understand that it is the basic process that is governing how you are moving material right from the time it has entered into your warehouse, how it is stored, picked, packed, and then dispatched from your warehouse or factory. With initiatives like PM Gati Shakti and the emphasis on the infrastructure that the government is putting right now, we are seeing a lot of development in terms of road, in terms of railway, in terms of ports, that is going to help reduce the logistics cost for the country as a whole.
True.
But you also need to keep up with your processes inside the factories and warehouses as well, right? So you will need to add productivity, you will need to add efficiency, you will need to add accuracy in your processes inside factories and warehouses, and that's where we come into the picture. Addverb basically has its own robotic products and automation systems which are powered by AI, with the AI layer of software, which helps organizations to move material more efficiently, reliably, and accurately, which basically increases their productivity and also helps them to scale their business easily. So that's what we do, and that also has to play a very important part, because your processes need to keep up with the infrastructure development that is happening, and that can only happen with automation.
I think very well put across, Satish. Yashraj, taking it forward from here, when we talk about the Indian context, the Indian companies are increasingly adopting advanced intra-logistics solutions. What are some key technologies and innovations that are driving this transformation, and how do you see them benefiting the businesses?
Actually, this drive or this increased usage is not owing to technological advancements. AI, machine learning, computer vision, all of those algorithms and technologies have been there for quite a while. The transformation, as Satish had mentioned and you also mentioned, I think the initiatives that are being taken at a national level, which are actually paving the way for the adoption of such technologies are now, so the environment and the timing is actually quite ripe and right. There is no sense in automating a workflow or supercharging a process inside the factory shop floor or the warehouse when the material movement on the roads is going to take forever, which was till now the case, as we had seen. But given the kind of steps and all of them are rightfully being taken, all of them are adding to this, and the adoption is actually because of the scale that we are now witnessing. The other development has also been on the consumer front. You have companies, the e-commerce companies India, interestingly, is amongst the countries where the e-commerce has really, grown in a big way, right? So all of that enablement is also happening on the back of innovation through automation and through logistics initiatives only.
I think the picture of the entire country has been changed by bringing about this transformation, Yashraj. Coming to you, Nailesh, we often hear about India becoming the next global manufacturing destination. How do you see intra-logistics enabling Indian companies to maintain a competitive edge in this evolving landscape?
I think if we want to scale up manufacturing and we want to be +1 on everything, I think the only way is to bring in the new technology. And it's not only just the automation, it's the smart logistics that is required. We need to see how we use the data and how we allow the machines to move our material from point A to point B. Ensure that delivery is done with the least amount of challenges. If today we are talking of 14% as a logistics cost, it's extremely high. And it's this automation or this smart concept that we're talking about can bring it down to single digits.
Just to add to Nailesh, I think digitalization is also contributing. See, there is no point of having richness if you do not have digitalization. So, foundation stones are now in place. The build and that reduction in the overall national logistics cost will happen through such enablements only.
Right. Satish also wanted to add something to it.
If you see technology adoption, or if we remain specific to robotics and automation in logistics in this case, every country will have a different trigger for adopting automation and robotics, right? So to give you a simple perspective, the population of Uttar Pradesh would be more than population of Brazil, right? And then you have data available at every nook and corner of the country. So there is somebody who would be sitting in a rural Uttar Pradesh or Bihar and ordering an item from an e-commerce platform. It could be cosmetic, it could be fashion, it could be pharmaceutical product, and you need to deliver that in 1 or 2 days. That is the benchmark that we are setting for customers across the country. Now, if you want to go to that level of efficiency, if you want to unlock that level of productivity, you cannot do it without automation. So the trigger in case of India is very different. Every business wants to scale. Every global industry today wants to have the pie of Indian consumer, right? Wants to have a piece of the pie of Indian consumer. And that's where companies are now being forced to go for robotics and automation, because you cannot simply meet the kind of scale that the Indian consumer has to offer.
Absolutely. I think that is more important also. And one fine example, I think, of what we just discussed, Professor Choudhary, that COVID was something which had a lot of learnings and a lot of takeaways and understandings. So in that context, could you please enlighten us on how important it is for the Indian companies to establish robust intra-logistics systems for resilience and self-reliance when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat with the current geopolitical situation impacting the global supply chains?
We are living in a world which is absolutely an interdependent world. There is no one who is able to do everything in isolation. We look at India becoming a manufacturing destination. Of course, there has been tremendous progress in the last 9-10 years. For example, with mobile phone being an import-oriented country to exporting a large number. Same is the case with automotive, with many companies out of India, automobile companies are actually exporting. We are trying to set up semiconductor manufacturing facilities. We are trying to have electronics manufacturing ramp up. All of these operations basically require us to cut down on the logistics cost to be both domestically competitive as well as export competitive. And particularly in that context, if we really have to look at, right, the supply chain and the efficient supply chain, that plays an important role, because the kind of materials that are going to be used, they are not going to be sourced from one place. Therefore, you need to have supply software as, for example, a purchasing entity. If I am a manager in the factory and I want to make sure which material comes where, I need to have a supply software, for example, that has a lot of market intelligence. Yeah, I need to have a lot of latest technologies like Internet of Things enabled trace and track technology. I need to have a lot of digital twin kind of technology, which is currently made possible by 5G and others, because then I am able to simulate what situation might happen in future if there is a physical situation that is occurring. I'm able to simulate and see the impact. Therefore, if you really see in the current global order with the geopolitical situations that we have, we need to build intra-logistics and the entire supply chain to make sure that our logistics is shock-proof, our logistics is future-proof, and our logistics is absolutely technology-enabled.
I think this is something which needs to be very well understood and thought about also. But I would like to have Yash, your reaction, and Satish, your reaction to the fact that with the dynamics of the country in changing so fast as compared to the last 5 years and post-COVID scenario, things have changed a lot. In such a scenario, I'll take both your reactions. Where do you, Satish, you can take it first. Where do you see the risk factor and the challenges coming to play when we talk about automation, robotics, and as well as IoT also, Professor Choudhary spoke about, in the intra-logistics area?
There will definitely be edge cases or scenarios which nobody can visualize. Now, in that circumstance, you need to create an automation solution that can be flexible enough, right? And that's where we have to understand with technologies like digital twin. So one of the challenges, you build an automation system for a particular use case. So I'll give you a simple example. We were doing an automation system for one of the leading consumer goods companies. We did the entire data crunching, we did the entire analysis. All of this was pre-COVID data, and lo and behold, lockdown happens. And suddenly the entire order profile of customer changes. Now customer is ordering larger SKU sizes. Now customer is ordering more sanitizers. Customer is ordering more personal care products, right? More soaps, more liquid dispensers, etc. What would have happened if you would have taken a solution which is not flexible or which cannot be repurposed again, right? So that's where the challenge is, that your solution should not be that it cannot be repurposed again for your changing business requirement. And that's where the role of software comes into the picture. So can you still change the sequencing of the storage and retrieval? Can you have more mobile robots in place so that your layout can change depending on the business requirement that you have? So that is one of the challenges that I see, that you need to build automation solutions which are more configurable, which can be repurposed easily, and which are more flexible.
I think the resilience element got highlighted during COVID, right? So, which also brought the problem statement that most e-commerce companies face is also about impatience at the consumer's end, right? So, like Satish was mentioning that, till pre-COVID, the order profile itself, went upside down or changed quite a lot. How do you design systems, especially automation? See, automating a factory shop floor is far more easier. As soon as material is manufactured and then create, so on the factory side you need modularity, you need flexibility, whether the same factory can be repurposed to maybe create more variants, or you will need to set up a new line. That's where factory automation solutions will come into the picture. On the warehousing side, like Satish said, that you need to be able to repurpose it, recalibrate it, and reuse it. That is going to drive adoption.
Nailesh, compared to various other countries presently, where do we see India right now in the intra-logistics solution area?
I think we are absolutely ready to, show the change on intra-logistics. Our last mile deliveries, especially when it comes to a B2C model, I think we've done exceedingly well. Our payment gateways, we've done exceedingly well. So bringing this to just the cargo, it's not going to be difficult. I think this is a new business model that we're going to showcase globally. That's the automation front, right? We are already managing the data well. It's now just talking of how to handle the cargo well.
What more do we want right now on the front of the support from the government concerned to boost this sector further?
I think it's One is awareness that automation does bring a change. Scaling up, awareness needs to be brought in, and somewhere we need to force upon digitization at post manufacturing to reaching to the consumer. I think that in between the cargo needs to get digitized.
Professor Choudhary, from an economic perspective, how do you see the growth of intra-logistics in India contribute to the overall development of the country's logistics sector and economy?
So if we look very fundamentally, right, logistics efficiency is a combination of three factors. A superior infrastructure, which the government is investing significantly across railways, across roads, highways, ports, shipping, aviation, wherever you see. Second part is important to the policies related to logistics that enable you that. But I believe that along with these two, one more thing that is very important is superior human resources for the sector. India, if you look at India's progress, we are investing significantly as a nation into artificial intelligence as a mission, into quantum technology as a mission. We are investing into digital infrastructure I talked about already. We are significantly investing into each of these infrastructure, which are the basic building blocks. Therefore, if the government says that our aim of our national logistics policy is to cut down the logistics cost from 14% of GDP to 7-8% of GDP by 2030. I personally believe it is very much feasible, very much possible, because it is not an effort or a statement in isolation. It is supported by significant outlay and effort on the infrastructure side. It is a significant effort on building the human capital that will transform the industry that I talked about, and also giving the necessary impetus, whether through dedicated freight corridors, whether including the sustainable aspects. These days, recently we heard about hydrogen-powered bus being introduced, a hydrogen-powered train being. So we are moving towards a sustainable aspect. So topics that we already talked about, that whether how soon we will have a green logistics, how soon we will move toward a sustainable aspects. I think India is, as in other sectors, we already committed that we will meet the Paris Agreement much before its targeted plan. I believe logistics sector is one of the sector where we will reach it even sooner.
Wow, very well said, Professor Choudhary. Very quick reaction from all three of you, Yashraj, Satish and Nailesh. In terms of intra-logistics, what potential do you see for the further growth here? We can start with you, Yash.
The headroom is crazy. The headroom for growth actually is quite crazy. We have moved up 6 notches in the logistics performance index. We are now ranked at 38. Where do we go from here? I think even circling back on the point that you were talking about the government, I think the government has done whatever it is supposed to be doing. So, I really need to applaud our leaders, especially in the government side, that they are doing their job. I think it is incumbent now on us who are industry practitioners to sort of make churn out solutions which are actually India specific, because India is also a lot about the kind of problems you face on the roads in India are not seen anywhere in the developed world. So these solutions also need to be indigenous. They need to be suited to the Indian context.
Right. Nailesh?
We have, as industry and as users of automation, we have to accept that this is an investment that we have to make. It's not an expenditure, or it's not a burnout, to our profits. And that's the one important factor that we have to accept and say that we need to move on with this investment.
Right. Satish?
See, if you want to build a factory and if you want to become the factory of the world, there are 3 factors that need to be solved: land, labor, capital. So capital, to a very large extent, our banks are recapitalized. We have good access to credit, etc., institutional credit. Land, obviously, the hinterlands will be more cheaper to set up a factory as compared to a coastal area or a metro. The thing that is with labor, with automation or with intralogistics automation, you create highly skilled jobs for the people of those hinterlands, and you make your hinterland more competitive, right? The kind of growth or value unlocking that will happen there will be very different, phenomenal, and we are not even at 1% if you ask me. Second thing, I think that intralogistics in India is going to solve a lot of commerce problems globally. So one of the debates that is going on is what will happen to the offline retail, right? So the commercial real estate prices of retail in US came down as compared to a decade back. People said that with online shops, people will not go to offline retail. And what we see in India, that there is 10-minute delivery, there is overnight delivery, and there is my kirana wala who's not only surviving but also thriving. Now, what is making all these channels successful? It's logistics, right? Both last mile delivery, both infrastructure or transportation, and the intra-logistics in terms of warehouse automation. So I think the solutions that we are going to deploy here are going to solve a lot of global problems and are going to give an answer to a lot of global questions for new modes of commerce as well.
Right. So my last question to all of you is, as we look ahead, what are the key trends and developments in the intra-logistics that we can expect to see in India in the next coming few years? Professor Choudhary.
India is already known as a powerhouse of software, and many of the aspects of the automation that we are talking of basically are related to software. Of course, we will develop sensors that will be able to track all the items which are there, so that is a track and trace possibility, but much more related to software and bringing the intelligent capability into that is where I see that India will take a definite lead into the whole of the market, and I'm highly optimistic about our country going this path.
Right. Yashraj?
The advantage that we have is that we are a nation of billion people, plus people now. That also means that we are a big market in ourselves. So we don't need to serve outside markets. But at the same time, I think I would also like to quote, what sort of was institutionalized by Maruti. Ye gaadi kitna deti hai? So now, what it in our context or in the logistics and intra-logistics context, what it means is that you need to come up with frugal innovation and solutions. So I would say that from a way forward perspective, we've not even scratched the surface. So we are in for good times, and we will see a lot more efficient and cost-effective solutions coming forth.
Nailesh?
I think we Indians are very easy to change. Any change, and I think COVID was a classic, experience where we are in a position to adopt any change and take it as a challenge also. And this is one thing that we are going to see, the automation at shop floor level, post-production automation is something which we will accept and we will adopt it also, for sure.
Satish?
So as I already said, today we see warehouse as a collection of robots in automation system, autonomous robots and automation system. I visualize the future as warehouse itself becoming a robot and becoming a completely autonomous system that can change and adapt itself to the changing requirement, and we will have such kind of warehouses in India very soon.
Thank you all the gentlemen for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
It has been our privilege to host these esteemed panelists and help them share their expertise and insights with us today. Thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Until next time.